Hello, everybody. I hope you all are safe, fine, taking care of yourselves and your family members. So, it's time to continue our next topic now. That's transportation. So, when we say transportation, what should be the meaning of the word transportation? So, it simply means taking some substances from one place to another place. So, here we are going to talk about transportation of air, water, food, etc., which is required or needed by all living organisms for their survival. Now, why these organisms need air, water, food, etc., is obviously it helps them to perform their daily activities by generating energy or ATP. Already we have discussed about it. Now, how these substances reach their body? So, obviously, they reach through breathing, gases enter through breathing, water and other fluids they enter inside the body by drinking, even some substances, solid materials like food, it enters inside the body through eating. Now once it enters inside the body, how it reaches to the cells where it is utilized, where it is oxidized to generate ATP or energy. So it is the function of a special system in the body of organisms, and this system is only known as a transport system. Now it may vary organism to organism. Like in plants, the transport system, when you talk, it is in the form of a vascular bundles, xylem and phloem. But when we talk about animals, the transport system is specialized in higher organisms. It is simple in lower organisms or lower animals. Like in us, we are going to talk in detail about human beings, what is the transport system in human beings and what it is made up of. So basically it consists of two main systems which we call as blood circulatory system and lymphatic system. So these are the two main fluids which are transported in our body, blood and the lymph. Now there would be a question you might come across, distinguish between this blood and the lymph. So what should be the answer? The first thing is that blood is always red in color and this lymph is colorless or pale yellow in color. Second difference is this blood is red because there are RBCs present and this lymph lacks RBCs. So this is with RBCs, this is without RBCs. Then this blood flows through blood vessels. But when we say lymph, it flows through lymph vessels. And when you talk the last difference, blood always flows in two directions. That is heart to other organs and other organs back to the heart. But it's not like that in case lymph. Lymph flows in only one direction, that is towards heart. So that is the last difference, direction of flow. I hope you all got an idea what is the difference between blood and the lymph. So blood is red in color, lymph is colorless. Blood is red because of RBCs, lymph is colorless because it has no RBCs but both have WBCs. It's common. Then blood flows through blood vessels, lymph flows through lymph vessels. Blood flows in two directions, so it is bidirectional. Lymph flows in only one direction, that is unidirectional. Then last difference between them is what functions they perform. So our blood helps in different ways like transport of oxygen, carbon dioxide. It also has antibodies which fight against diseases, etc. But when you say this lymph basically helps us in providing immunity, resistance against infection or diseases. So here, when you talk in detail, this lymph or a lymphatic system consists of lymph vessels, that colorless fluid or the lymph, and another thing which is called the lymph nodes. Now these lymph nodes are small bulb-like structures where there are more RBCs, and these lymph nodes are distributed all over body, more concentrated in our neck region, in the armpit region, in the groin region, and sometimes when we get an infection, small injuries, etc., cuts, burns, etc., those germs or dust particles which enter in our body, they are collected here inside these lymph nodes and then they are destroyed there. So when this encounter is going on between WBCs of the lymph and the germs or these dust particles, etc., we come across or we feel a small outgrowth, or we feel a small bulb-like structure in the armpits or in the groin region. So that is an indication that we have got an infection. So it's a temporary, and then after that pathogens are destroyed, it disappears. So this is for your information, just you need to remember what is lymph. So I told you. So transport of blood is done by blood circulatory system, and the transport of this lymph is done by lymphatic system. When it comes to plants, this is done by the help of a xylem and phloem. We call them as vascular bundles. Whatever the type is, why we need this transport system? That is the question, right? So whenever you say functions of this transport system in animals, so basically it is required for transport of gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. It is required for transport of nutrients. It is required for transport of waste materials or excretory products. And finally, as I said, it also contains RBCs, WBCs, platelets, out of which WBCs play an important role in preventing infections or helps to fight against diseases. So here in this topic, we are going to learn about human circulatory system. So when you say human circulatory system, then it involves some components. Now what are those components? So the first component that belongs to this is, of course, very important structure, the heart. Then the second component will come in the list as blood, and third and the last component will be blood vessels. So these are the three main components which form our circulatory system. And this circulation of a blood in human beings is referred as a double circulation. Now why double circulation? Because our heart receives two kinds of bloods, pure blood and impure blood. So we will be learning that in detail in the next part of the same topic. So here now we are going to begin with the first part of this unit, that is the structure of heart. So here, this is going to be our first part or a first topic. There is one diagram given there in your NCERT textbook. You need to practice that. I will also help you to learn how to draw a diagram. So right now, you refer to that NCERT textbook, sketch the diagram, do all the proper labels and practice it. Now let's talk about some basic features of this. When you talk about human heart, so it is of a special type called as myogenic heart. Whenever you say the type of a human heart, it is always going to be myogenic. Now what do you mean by myogenic heart? So myogenic means it is controlled by specialized muscles. Remember you had types of muscles in your 9th standard? Exactly. So it is made up of cardiac muscles. So those muscles control this heart, hence it is called as myogenic heart. Well, there is one more type of a heart called as a neurogenic heart, because it is under control of nerves. So the heart which is under control of nerves is neurogenic, and that is commonly found in invertebrates. This is found in vertebrates except cockroach. Now, this heart is located in, of course it is located in chest cavity, technically called as a thoracic cavity, and it is covered and protected by that rib cage. There are certain muscles between those ribs called as a thoracic muscles, or you call intercostal muscles. So that's the location. Now, after location, when you talk about shape of the heart, it is more or triangular in shape, broad towards apex and narrow towards base. Then its color, weight, dimensions when you discuss, so it would be, you have already heard about it, that it is of one's closed fist size, color is brown color or that brick red colored, weight varies between men and women, so approximately it is about 250 to 300 grams in an adult. The weight is about 250 to 300 grams in adults. Dimensions or measurements, you don't need that much detail for your 10th standard, but for your information I'm just telling you that it measures the length of about 10 centimeters, breadth of about 8 centimeters, and thickness is about 4 to 5 centimeters. Fine. So just to remember, as a fun, I'm telling you that how to remember the weight of this heart. न तेरे काम का न मेरे काम का, भगवान ने दिल दिया तुझे 250 ग्राम का. Just a fun to remember that weight, and even it is not needed for your boards. Now when it comes to structure of human heart, the very important part from the same, structure of human heart. So structurally, human heart is divided into 4 chambers. When we talk about diagram of the same, I said you need to draw it from your textbook. This diagram what I am drawing is for your reference. It may not be exactly similar to your NCERT textbook, but there is a concept. So when you say structure of the heart, it includes basically 4 chambers which are found in the heart of birds and mammals only. Now, out of these 4 chambers, 2 chambers are called as atria and 2 chambers are called as ventricles. Singular number atrium and ventricle. So there are 2 atria and 2 ventricles. So these upper chambers are called as atria and these lower chambers are called as ventricles. These atria are blood receiving chambers and these ventricles are blood pumping chambers. So upper chambers, lower chambers, and this is the wall that divides these 2 ventricles from each other. This will be your right ventricle, this will be your left ventricle. This is right atrium and this is left atrium. So both are separated from each other by walls. That wall can be called as a septum. Okay. Now, other differences between these atria and these ventricles is atria are thin walled, ventricles are thick walled. So some differences what I said is what? Atria are thin walled, ventricles are thick walled. Atria are upper chambers, ventricles are lower chambers. Atria are blood receiving chambers, ventricles are blood pumping chambers. Now, when we talk about other details of the same, so there are certain tubes that enter inside the heart and they exit the heart. So here we have got the first two main openings which are there here, which open here in the right atrium. Remember these names. The names are superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, or you can also call it as pre-caval and a post-caval. So look, these are the upper chambers. These are the two names which open into this right atrium. Pre-caval can also be known by another name, superior vena cava, and this is post-caval, or can also be called as inferior vena cava. Now what they do is they collect the impure blood from entire body. In fact, right side of the heart always contains impure blood. Impure means without oxygen, deoxygenated blood. So both the superior and inferior vena cava, or pre-caval and post-caval, they collect impure blood from all over the body and brings it to this right atrium. Is it clear? Now what do you mean by that impure blood, or from where it collects? So superior vena cava, or this pre-caval, collects the blood from head, neck, shoulders, etc. And this post-caval collects blood from lower parts of the body. Lower parts means like trunk, hands, legs, etc. And then that blood is brought here in the right atrium. Fine. Now, some more openings we can have here, and those openings would be this one. You can check, very important one, called as aorta, or you can also call it as largest artery in our body. Now where it is opening? It is opening inside left ventricle, or it is carrying blood away from left ventricle. I hope you are understanding. Pre-caval and post-caval brings blood to the right atrium. Then left ventricle takes blood away from this heart through this aorta to all parts of the body. It later on divides into branches which we call as arteries. Fine. So left side of the heart always contains pure blood. Right side of the heart always contains impure blood. Now comes the last openings which we can come across here, and that will be this tube, which opens inside right ventricle and takes impure blood away from the heart, and this will be called as pulmonary arteries. Remember the name, pulmonary arteries, and now you can see it is dividing into two tubes. One tube going towards left side and one tube going towards the right side. So these are the branches of this pulmonary artery which takes blood to the lungs. Whenever we will come across the word pulmonary, that will be associated with lungs. So this takes blood to the lungs, where it will get purified, oxygenated, and then it will come back to the left atrium, and it will open here inside the left atrium through pulmonary veins. Remember this name now, pulmonary veins. So these are only the openings which are there in the heart you can remember. So what is the difference between pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins here? Usually arteries carry oxygenated blood, but this is an exception because it carries impure blood or deoxygenated blood. Usually veins carry deoxygenated blood, but this is an exception because it carries oxygenated blood. Remember, these two exceptions are important. So in addition to this, what else you can find there in the heart is there are some valves which prevents backflow of the blood. So here you can see the thickness of ventricles. Left ventricle is thicker than right ventricle. Again, one more point you can remember. And now here there is something which we call as a valves. So here it is. Now what are valves? Valves are the small structures which prevent backflow of the blood. So blood from this atria always should come to the ventricles, should not go back to the atria. So these open in only one direction. So two main valves you can remember. The valve which is present here between right atrium and the right ventricle will be called as a tricuspid valve. The valve which opens inside right ventricle, located between right atrium and right ventricle, is called tricuspid valve. And here now, the valve which is present between left atrium and the left ventricle will be called as a bicuspid valve, or it is also known by one more name, mitral valve. Now why it is called as a bi or it is called as a tri? So it is because it is made up of these crescent shaped structures. So there are two crescent shaped structures, so bicuspid. If there are three crescent shapes, tricuspid. Fine. In addition to this, there are some more valves which are located in the heart, but that you are not going to learn here for 10th standard. That would be your 11th standard part. So just remember these two names, bicuspid valve and a tricuspid valve. Functions are to prevent backflow of the blood. I hope structure of the heart is clear to you people. And this is a simple diagram what I have drawn. Even you can go ahead with this diagram, but it depends on the examiner if he wants the diagram exactly from your NCERT textbook. So why you take chance? So better you practice the diagram from your NCERT textbook. Diagram is same only, they just have given outline of the same, and what I have drawn here is little 3D diagram like that. Anyways, so now look what kind of blood flows through the heart, where it goes and how it comes back. So once again, beginning with this superior and inferior vena cava, or you can call it as precaval and postcaval. So when you talk about precaval and postcaval, they collect impure blood from the heart, right? Sorry, impure blood from the body, from all over body. That impure blood is brought to the right atrium. From right atrium, it will enter into the right ventricle through this valve. The valve is called as tricuspid valve. Now from here, that impure blood is pumped into pulmonary arteries. This blood will go to the lungs. In lungs, that impure blood will become pure by adding oxygen to it. Once it will become pure, it will come back into these pulmonary veins, and these pulmonary veins will pour the blood into left atrium. From left atrium, that blood will enter in the left ventricle through this valve. Name of the valve is bicuspid valve. Then from left ventricle, that blood will be pumped into this aorta, the largest artery in our body, and then it will take blood to all the tissues, all the parts of the body, dividing itself into arteries, branches of arteries, arterioles, etc. And this whole circulation, we call it as double circulation. So we saw here there was pure blood, there was impure blood, and therefore we call it as a double circulation, which was discovered by one biologist, Dr. William Harvey, who is known as also father of double circulation. So I hope you have got an idea about basics or a structure of your heart, how it is and what are the details. So the entire circulation of this heart we can broadly divide into two types, and those two types will be like pulmonary circulation. This is the circulation of impure blood. Pulmonary circulation, that is the circulation of impure blood. And the second type would be systemic circulation. That would be circulation of pure blood. So how it occurs, or pulmonary circulation will involve, it will be transport of the blood from right ventricle first. So from here it will start. So right ventricle will pump impure blood. Where it will go? It will enter in this. What is this? Pulmonary arteries. So from here it will enter into pulmonary arteries. Now these pulmonary arteries will take this impure blood to the lungs. Now lungs may, what happens there we know, there is addition of oxygen, and this impure blood now will become pure blood, and once it will become pure blood, this blood will be carried back to the heart by pulmonary veins. So now pulmonary veins will bring the blood. Which side of the heart it will bring the blood? That is left atrium. Now from left atrium that blood will enter in left ventricle. So this entire flow of the blood, right? This entire flow of the blood from right ventricle to left ventricle we can call as pulmonary circulation. Am I clear? Understood the concept? You need to remember this. How blood flows, what are the parts involved. Now comes the second type of the circulation. We will call it as systemic circulation. The type is systemic circulation. Now this is the circulation of a pure blood. Now pure blood is pumped by left side of the heart. So it will start from left ventricle. So first blood is pumped by left ventricle. Where it will go? From left ventricle to this aorta. Then from aorta it will enter inside, or it will divide itself into arteries. Then these arteries further divide into smaller branches, arterioles. Arterioles further divide into capillaries, smallest blood vessels in our body. Capillaries unite together now and forms venules, which are the branches of veins. Venules unite together and forms veins, and all the small veins, they open into the largest veins of the body, which are this precaval and postcaval. Pre and postcaval, and now this pre and postcaval will open into right atrium, and finally blood will reach to the right ventricle. So this entire flow of blood from left ventricle to this right ventricle is known as a systemic circulation, and these two circulations togetherly forms double circulation. I hope now you got an idea what is the meaning of double circulation, how blood flows from left side to right side and vice versa. So keep it in your mind. Very important concept, not very clearly mentioned there in your NCERT textbook. So this will help you to understand the concept exactly what it is. So practice this diagram, it's very important. questions are expected. Again, some additional information I can tell you about this is that why this thickness of left ventricle is more than the thickness of right ventricle is because left side of the heart has pure blood, and pure blood is supplied to distant organs of the body. So as it has to supply blood to distant parts of the body, it has to undergo powerful contraction. Whereas the blood from right ventricle is pumped to nearby organs like lungs, so it did not undergo that powerful contraction. So this is the difference why thickness of left ventricle is more than the thickness of right ventricle. There are still so many interesting things related with this heart, but again it's not your part of boards. That will be for your competitive exams. It will be there in your 11th standard, like what is heartbeat, then rate of heartbeat, and pulse, what is the pulse rate. These are some more additional parts or additional things. I just tell you for your information. I'm not writing here as it is not required there for your boards. Like what is heartbeat? So heartbeat is nothing but one complete contraction and one complete relaxation of a heart, and it is completed in 0.40 seconds. So that is additional information, as I said you people. So one complete contraction is technically called as a systole, and one complete relaxation, or we can call it as diastole, togetherly forms heartbeat. And the rate of heartbeat in an adult human being is 72 times per minute. Whereas in newborn babies it is very fast. It may be 100, 150 heartbeats per minute. So in other animals, when you talk about, it is usually inversely proportionate with the size of the body. Heartbeat is inversely proportionate with the size of the body. Like when you talk about elephant, the heartbeat is 25 to 30 times per minute. Whale, the largest animal on earth, but the heartbeat is slowest, only 6 times to 10 times per minute. When you talk about small animals, like a rabbit shows 200 heartbeats per minute, and rat, when you say 600 times per minute. So what you can conclude here is that size of the body is inversely proportionate with the heartbeat. Now the reason behind this is, as size of the body is small, the activities of animal are more. So rate of metabolism, chemical reactions will be faster. So more the faster chemical reactions or metabolism, faster the heartbeat. So that's what, for your information, I told you. It's not as such a part of your syllabus. So keep studying, keep reading NCERT textbook, solve assignments time to time. You also can refer some other apps or your websites such as your